News, this is Montana This Morning.
Good Wednesday morning. It's 5:30. Welcome to Montana This Morning. I'm Victoria Hill. Thank you so much for getting your day started with us. And good morning to Miller. And thank you for a cool down.
Yes, yes. It's quotes. Oh, wait a minute. I got the different sign up.
I'm sorry.
I had good morning, Amber. No, I had a sign up earlier. It had quotes around cool down.
Yeah.
Still going to be hot, but not as hot. That excessive heat finally going away. Well, we saw records yesterday. Not going to see those records moving forward. Now, here's the big story this morning. Look at all that smoke. It's moderate to heavy across Yellowstone County. And if you've got asthma, respiratory ailments, today's not going to be a day for you. The air quality is not going to be that good. In fact, we still have that alert in place. We'll have an update on that a little bit later on this morning. But if you can stay indoors today, if you suffer from those ailments, might be a good idea. That's a great shot there, courtesy of the Stockman Bank Weather Camp. Here's another story. Look how mild it is. We should be in the low 60s right now, waking up. We're at 79 right now in Billings. Humidity at 20%, winds out of the north at about 12 miles an hour. Take a look at temperatures across the viewing area. A lot of 70s across the board as we start. A lot of cloud cover out there too. We'll see variable cloudiness today. We've got a lot of moisture moving in, and you can see down around Red Lodge, the Beartooth, a decent chance where we could see some rain a little bit later on this afternoon. Most of the area won't see any of that rain today, but moving into tomorrow and Friday, a better chance we could at least see some isolated showers, just a slight chance right now. And you'll see those highs today, cooler than yesterday, maybe a good 10 degrees cooler today here in the Magic City than it was yesterday. Highs in the 80s and 90s. We'll go 95 today here in Billings, still 6 degrees above average, but that excessive heat finally going away. And at least for the rest of the weekend and to the early part of next week, we're not anticipating any of that record heat to come back. Still going to be warm to hot, but not that bad.
Yeah, thank goodness. That's something else. Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, mixed with the smoke? Yeah. No, thank you.
Okay.
All right, Miller, I will get on to news. Thank you. Our top story this morning, millions of people across the U.S. are affected by mental illness, but only a fraction know and understand the weight of a mental health crisis, a serious medical situation. Oftentimes, it's not doctors these individuals encounter during those first crucial moments. It's police officers. In a state with one of the highest suicide rates, it's critical they know how to handle the situation with caution, care, and most important, understanding. And as I found out, that's why Billings police officers go through rigorous training before their first day on the job.
Hey, how's it going, sir?
Chaotic. Loud. Commotion. This is what it's like for officers when they arrive to the scene involving someone enduring a mental health crisis.
Behind the Jeep out there.
Not usually what you picture when you think of police training. This is called Crisis Intervention Team Program Training, or CIT.
So you're talking about guys out there. What guys?
Officers learn to identify a mental health crisis and strategies to de-escalate the situation and offer assistance.
Why don't we put down that knife and come out here?
Starting 4 years ago, all new Billings police officers are required to go through a condensed version of the program before they hit the streets.
You think they'll really help?
I think they will.
Then they're given the option to attend a full 40-hour week of training later in the year.
Are they out back? Are they out back?
Of the police department's 150 or so officers, 65 have attended the Crisis Intervention Team Academy.
It really teaches you just to listen to people and ultimately come to a solution.
Hey, it's Officer Woody with the Billings Police Department.
Officer David Woody is new to the Billings Police Department, fresh off of training, experiencing his first day on the job Tuesday.
It was something that I haven't really thought about as much, but it's really important.
CIT is a training tool officers will utilize more often than not.
More and more has been put on top of police officers and police department shoulders to handle certain crises throughout the city.
Officer Phil Tannis with the Billings Police Department is an instructor for CIT. Serving as a downtown Billings resource officer, Tannis frequently encounters community members living with a mental illness.
Appreciate you.
Yep. All right, guys.
All right, thank you for checking on.
Yep. Be good today, okay?
Yep.
Ranging from something as minor anxiety to, schizophrenia, 25 to 30% of every person in this country has some type of mental illness. So think about how you would like your family member to be treated by a police officer or by any provider.
Nationally, the public opinion of police encounters isn't always positive, but because of CIT, the Billings community only sees a small percentage of situations that escalate.
A lot of the calls for service, I'd say 99% of these calls go completely unnoticed to the common eye of the average citizen. You know, our officers are doing a great job de-escalating these individuals, getting to that safe solution, and doing it without anybody ever noticing, maybe a neighbor or two.
Billings police responded close to 1,500 suicide intervention calls in 2020, or about 4 a day. Each situation delicate and taken with various approaches for the best solution.
So it allows you to not only build that rapport with that individual, but it also allows them to de-escalate and make them feel like they're listened to, and then you can go from there to an officer-driven solution, which is sometimes it does require a mental health hold at the hospital so they can speak with someone with Billings Clinic's PAC team. And sometimes it's simply assisting them in setting up an appointment the next day with their own behavioral health provider.
The CIT training, I think, has really helped them understand what mental illness is.
Mary Karen Merrick, a Billings volunteer with the National Alliance on Mental Illness, better known as NAMI, would know.
I initially became involved with NAMI probably 20 years ago. I have a brother who lives with mental illness, and my family and I were really struggling with what's going on.
NAMI played a major part in creating the CIT program. Now retired, Merrick is still committed to helping those with mental illness and their families.
It's one way to advocate, not just for him, but to for other people.
An extra challenge for the officers comes when the person in a crisis is also under the influence of alcohol or drugs.
I think the people that you see that have substances on board are doing it to help just deal with what's going on. My brother was in Warm Springs a couple of years ago, and I met with the psychiatrist and the social worker, and he was using pot to help him at that point and not the antipsychotic medication.
In that moment, it's the officer's job to take everyone's reality, even through the impairment and crisis, toward a solution.
Good morning. I'm Officer Tans with the Billings Police Department. How you doing?
But CIT isn't always foolproof.
As much as we want it to work every single time, we need compliance from the individual in a mental health crisis. And sometimes those crises are so intense that it does require hopefully just soft restraint uses of force, and sometimes it escalates even to more than that.
It comes to an extreme when other lives are at stake.
This individual is trying to hurt themselves or others, and they need to take action immediately, or else another citizen is in danger.
Like any program, there's always room for improvement and growth. That's why the Billings Police Department is working with a grant that would allow them to create a co-responder model where a mental health provider responds to crisis calls alongside officers.
Because sometimes simply having an officer with a badge is so intimidating that an individual doesn't feel comfortable connecting with us, which is understandable.
Despite good efforts, Merrick says a deficit in our area is keeping those with mental illness from getting the treatment they truly need.
We don't have a lot of providers to provide the help. I mean, the officers are limited in what they can do. We don't have case management, psychiatrists are few and far between.
But she sees an opportunity in an upcoming public safety levy that would give the department what it needs.
I just feel the size of, where Billings is going population-wise and what's happening with the culture around the United States. It's very obvious we need to give them all the training we can, and we need to give them all the people, all the cops.
And because the department is in need of more officers, even if one is interested in the CIT Academy, it doesn't guarantee them a spot. Tight staffing prevents the department from sending all interested officers through the 40-hour course.
The whole term for law enforcement is serve and protect, right? And that's what we want to do, is we want to serve the community and we want to protect them and keep them safe. Good. And we want to do that to the best of our ability as often as possible.
If you ever have a mental health crisis on hand, you can call 911 and specifically request a CIT trained officer to respond. Now, continuing our coverage, the Crow Tribe is filing a lawsuit against a Bureau of Indian Affairs K-9 officer after video surfaced of an arrest last week in Lodge Grass.
He was not even doing anything for a traffic signal.
Harris Red Star was pulled over in Lodge Grass. The video shows officers putting handcuffs on Harris as a police dog bites his foot, then ignored commands to release it. The civil suit accuses BIA officer Steve Stallings of aggravated assault, criminal endangerment, and negligent endangerment, causing Red Star emotional and physical injury. The tribe is seeking to have Stallings excluded from the reservation. In a statement, the tribe said, "Unfortunately, nothing in this video is surprising to anyone who has lived on the Crow Reservation. Excessive force against Crow people by a federal officer should never happen. The video clearly shows an officer who is not properly trained, who cannot control a canine, and shouldn't be policing our people and tribal lands." Red Star was cited with resisting arrest, obstructing, and assault on a peace officer for his part in the incident. Back in custody, an escaped Park County, Montana jail inmate has been arrested nearly 2 days after overpowering a guard, stealing his gun, and a detention center minivan. 34-year-old Jordan Lindy was apprehended in Clyde Park, about 23 miles north of Livingston, yesterday morning. He is behind bars this morning and was taken in without incident. On top of taking the detention center vehicle and gun, Lindy is accused of stealing another minivan. No other details about his arrest have been released. In court news, there will be a hearing today in an animal cruelty case out of Stillwater County. Rancher Jack Myers is charged with 3 felony counts of aggravated cruelty after more than 300 cows, calves, and heifers were seized on his ranch. Court documents say dozens of dead animals were also discovered on the property. The veterinarian who assisted with the case says the surviving cows have made a dramatic recovery and are now at a feedlot. Myers is trying to get those animals back and claims he did everything he could for them. Montana has nearly $460 million available in COVID-19 relief funding, specifically for infrastructure projects. A 9-person committee will recommend how that money is allocated across the state. Between cities, counties, water districts, and others, they've already received nearly $1 billion in applications. So far, applications from just 5 counties account for almost half of the requests, including $147 million from entities in Gallatin County and $117 million from Yellowstone County. The committee is expected to recommend who it believes should get the money in September, but Governor Greg Gianforte will make the final decisions. But in the meantime, Governor Gianforte is touting a new Billings program, keeping those recovering from addiction on track through their cell phones. The new app allows patients in drug court or other rehab programs 24/7 access to mental health tools, reminders, and other services to avoid relapse. Governor Gianforte says the Pathways to Recovery program, which started in March here in Billings, will be used as a template to help people across the state. One man says the technology helped him regain contact with his young sons.
This program actually has shown me how to be an adult and strengthen those relationships that I tossed to the wind beforehand. I know this program's a huge step leap in the right direction, and I'm just happy to be a part of it.
Governor Gianforte believes there could be more stories like Robert's across the state. He said the tool will help with the 2 problems in the state brought on by drug abuse.
1, a workforce shortage in the field, and 2, access to services to those struggling with addiction. Taken together, these efforts will help Montanans prepare to successfully re-enter communities, reunite with their family, friends, and neighbors.
The Department of Public Health and Human Services estimates 64,000 Montanans suffer from a substance abuse disorder. In national news, federal health officials say it's time to dust off that mask. The CDC is advising everyone, even the vaccinated, to go back to wearing them indoors in areas with elevated infection rates. That includes more than 60% of the counties in the U.S. The new guidance comes 2 months after the agency had relaxed its rules on wearing masks and social distancing. The CDC also issued new recommendations for schools, urging them to require students and staff to wear masks at all times, whether they've gotten their shots or not. 4 officers who defended the Capitol during the January 6th Capitol riot delivered dramatic and emotional testimony before a House committee yesterday. They described the terror they endured when the mob attacked the Capitol. One officer testified the crowd hurled racial slurs at him, and the officers urged the committee to place blame for the breach on former President Donald Trump. The committee is promising a thorough investigation, but most Republicans believe the panel is biased against the former president. Gunmaker Remington is offering $33 million to the families of 9 victims from the 2012 Sandy Hook school shooting. The proposed settlements would provide over $3 million to relatives of each victim. 26 people died, mostly children, during the gunman's attack in Newtown, Connecticut. The deal still requires approval from the bankruptcy court. Star gymnast Simone Biles withdrew from the team competition yesterday, and now we've learned she will also not be defending her 2016 gold medal in the individual all-around event tomorrow. It's still up in the air whether the U.S. captain will return at the mat at all this Olympics. CBS's Laura Podesta explains why.
Breaking overnight, Simone Biles has withdrawn from Thursday's individual all-around finals to focus on her mental health. USA Gymnastics says the 24-year-old has not made a decision if she'll compete in other events she qualified for next week. Yesterday, the world's most decorated gymnast took herself out of the team competition after her performance on the vault. Simone completed a less complicated maneuver and stumbled on the dismount.
No injury, thankfully, and that's why I took a step back, because I didn't want to do something silly out there and get injured.
Jordan Childs, Sunisa Lee, and Grace McCullum guided the U.S. to silver, while Biles cheered from the sideline.
I knew that the girls would do an absolutely great job, and I didn't want to risk the team a medal for kind of my screw-ups.
The day before, on Instagram, she wrote, "I truly do feel like I have the weight of the world on my shoulders at times." Former Olympic gold medalist Dominique Dawes knows what that pressure feels like and how it can impact performance.
Your mind then is overthinking the situation, and then you maybe balk a move, or you have a complete mental block and you are paralyzed and you freeze completely. And I feel as if that's really what happened to her, and I'm sure it scared her quite a bit.
The International Olympic Committee praised Biles' decision.
We all have, huge respect for her.
Reminding athletes, psychologists, and a mental health helpline in 70 languages are available to them. Laura Podesta, CBS News.
Former Olympian Michael Phelps said that it broke his heart when he heard about Biles' withdrawal. Phelps just produced a documentary, The Weight of Gold, about the mental health challenges that Olympic athletes often face.